Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well, taking care of yourselves. And today we have a new conversation for you. We have people from the GMAC team, and no, it's singular. We have someone from the GMAC team, we have someone from the ISB team. And our guests today are going to help you get a better understanding of what doors GMAT can open for you. We not only have somebody who will talk about GMAT, but this conversation is also going to talk about the kind of B schools you can make it to after you take the GMAT. We have our guests today. Let me introduce them to you. We have Yashwant, who's the Senior Manager for Admissions and Financial Aid at the Indian School of Business, which ranks as the #1 B school in India, according to FT rankings, and of course 23 globally. We have Upashana, who is Manager of Marketing for South Asia with the Graduate Management Admission Council, or GMAC, which is known to create the Global Admissions Test, GMAT, and also now the NMAT, of course. It's a pleasure to have you with me. Thank you so much for joining in and welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Ocean. Great to be here.
Thanks, Ocean.
Of course, without further ado, let's dive into our conversation for today. First, let's talk about GMAT and its role really in the B school admission process. Let me start with you, Upashana. If you could please share with us an overview of the GMAT exam, its pattern, duration, format, and at the core of it, what it really tests.
Thanks, Ocean. First of all, I would like to take a moment to talk about what GMAT exam aims at. GMAT exam remains the leading assessment for graduate business school and has been helping school qualify talent over 65 years by retaining quality, integrity, security of the exam. The test is a designated business school for, it's a test that is by the business schools and for the business school. Appearing for GMAT actually give an impression that you are committed to business studies. So GMAT exam assesses analytical writing and problem solving abilities along with data insufficiency, logic, critical reasoning skills, vital to the real business management success. The GMAT exam can help you stand out in a competitive applicant pool. It can also help out in scholarship opportunities, position yourself in jobs post B school studies. So what GMAT exam measures is a high order reasoning skills. You will need basic English language and math skills. However, the test measures your ability to reason with these skills. All the sections of the test, including AWA, IR section, involve reasoning. So basically, your reasoning skills has to be there to score well in GMAT. So over 2,300 schools and over 7,000 programs around the world use GMAT exam for their selection process. So the structure of GMAT, as I can say, is 2 hours and 7 minutes exam with 2 8-minute optional breaks. You will have your sections AWA, IR, Quant, and Verbal. You have the flexibility to choose the section in order which you like to take the exam. You can give the test either online from the comfort of your home, or you can go to a test center. The price of the test is $275. So you can take the GMAT exam 5 times in a calendar year with a 16-day gap and 8 times in your lifetime. Both online test and the test center exams will be counted in your number of attempts. So you can view your unofficial score after the test. You'll receive your official score within 5 to 7 days, working days. So we'll be getting an email notification that your scores are ready. The scores are valid for 5 years, and you can send them up to 5 B schools free of cost. And after that, it will cost you $35. Like the test center exam, online GMAT exam also have 5 complimentary score sent to B schools of your choice. However, those who have appeared for GMAT exam before 20th October 2021 can send unlimited scores to schools till 31st January 2022. After that, you have to pay $35 for each score that you send to B schools.
All right, thank you so much for that, Upashana. If you could maybe take another 30 seconds and talk to us about the pattern of the exam a little bit more. Maybe tell us what is it like for someone who's taking the exam? What skills do they need to hone before they can be in a position where they take the exam?
So as I told you already, when you give a GMAT exam, so basically it is your reasoning skills. So we have 4 sections, as I told you, AWA, IR, quant, and verb. So they are all timed, they are all sections. So basically, whenever you give an exam, you have to be ready with all your reasoning skills, and you have to be, practicing them. We do have a lot of tools for practicing, so you can use them, and you can, when you go for a business school, when you go for a GMAT exam, so basically what it assesses that how ready are you for business school. So whenever it not only gives you a entry to the B school, but also prepares you for the first year of your MBA degree. So it assesses that also. So as I told you, it gives a very good idea about your reasoning skills, your basic English language, your math skills. All are very important whenever you go for a GMAT exam.
All right, thank you so much, Upashana. Again, lovely to have you. I'll put across the first question to you, Yashwant, which is, because you're in the admissions team at ISB, why don't you tell us what role the GMAT score plays for you in the admission process? What are things you look at, and what do you imply from different GMAT scores?
Sure, absolutely, Ocean. So let me start off by telling you how we look at every application. So for us, every application is very unique. And so we refrain from just giving every application number. So we want to kind of dig a level deeper and look into the story of every application, the background of every application. So we kind of have that personal angle to every application. And to list out, we look at 6 major parameters. First would be your academics, which would comprise of your 10th, your 12th, and your undergraduate. If you've done a master's, your master's would also come into this category. So that would be your academic. Then would come your test score, be it either a GMAT or a GRE. Then would be your essays. So essays, we have 2 essays this year. One is an essay that talks about your personal qualities that will enable you to become a leader in the future. And the second essay is more a professional essay talking about your short-term and long-term goals. Then we look at your letter of recommendation. Then we look at your awards and achievements. And finally, we look at your work experience. So each of these parameters has a certain weightage associated with it. And it's not a single weightage or not an equal weightage for all of the parameters, but everything is important nonetheless. Coming to GMAT, I would say GMAT is a very significant part of the application, be it GMAT or GRE. The test score is a very, very significant part of the application. So I would say for candidates who are applying to ISB, I would say do give that the required importance, and put your best foot forward and try to get a score to the maximum capability that you have there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And maybe if you could take a minute more to talk to us about how, as for an aspirant, for example, when we look at CAT, it's a very simple process. It's one exam. If you clear a cutoff, you get in. For GMAT, there's no particular cutoff. Like you said, you look at the entire story. So the idea is the idea that the more I can score, the better, and I need to take more and more attempts to improve my score? Or what mindset or approach would you say aspirants should look at the GMAT from?
Sure. So like, if I were to put it in one way, or rather, for most people who follow our social media, this probably doesn't come as a surprise, but we are a school that has, or that embraces diversity. We encourage diversity. And our classes from year to year comprise of people ranging from, engineers to doctors to lawyers, chartered accountants, people from performing arts. Especially this year, we've had a person who contested in Miss India. We've had a national, we have many national level athletes. So we have people from the armed forces with 20 plus years of work experience. So it's really hard for us to set a standard and say, okay, this is the GMAT score that you need to get. So when a person has a certain GMAT score, we look at it in relation to the rest of their profile. So we do get these questions from time to time where people ask us what score should they aim for. Is 700 a necessity? So it's really hard to say that until and unless we know the rest of your profile. And your essays play a major part in that. The essays are the best avenue for you to tell your story to the AdCom. So all of these, the 6 parameters that I listed out are great ways for you to put your story forward. So that is why we do not have like a cutoff or a hard and fast rule of how much GMAT a person requires. If you were to look at the range of GMAT scores, we've had a range from 600 up until 780. And we have people across all of these, different score possibilities in that range.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that answer, Yashwant. For our viewers at this point, if you have questions, general questions about ISB, GMAT, GMAC, please feel free to send them on our live chat. We'll take them up in a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, let's go to the next question for our conversation, which is for you, Upashana. The question is, typically, how much time does it take for someone to prepare for GMAT based on whatever you guys have observed from whatever data sets you may have? And do you recommend taking dedicated coaching for it? The context I'd like to share here quickly is that after taking exams like CAT or XAT, aspirants usually have spent a fair amount of time preparing for these exams alone. And if there's someone who's considering starting their GMAT journey now, the question is really for them as to whether they have enough time, whether they can manage all of that in, let's say, the next 2 months, 3 months. You're on mute.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Sorry. Preparing for GMAT is completely subjective. You should prepare until you feel that you're ready. You should be comfortable with the test question, formats, and timing. Timing is one of the important things about GMAT. So we have done research that has shown that on an average, it takes around 100 hours spread over 3 months to prepare for GMAT exam. However, as I said, it is subjective and it depends on the candidate. For example, if a candidate who is a working professional and haven't been on to studies for a very long time, it will be difficult for that person to get into the study scenario after work and everything compared to a student. So I strongly suggest that if you start, you should start on your own at the beginning and learn about GMAT. It's just its structure, you get yourself familiar with the format before diving into the exam mode. As you get started with your preparation for the GMAT, check out the GMAT official starter kit for an overview of the exam and tips. How do you prepare for it? Use GMAT official, we have GMAT's official practice exam sets from 1 to 6. So you can prepare using them. They are the questions from past GMAT exams. So there we have 1 and 2 free of cost. Try them without preparation, see how you score. At least one, try the practice set 1 and see how much you score. The questions are available in my practice exam or retired GMAT question. So once you give them, it will give you a real idea about the GMAT exam. So you can understand, you can assess yourself. Then we also have a 8-week study plan. We have curated it, and which you can find on mba.com, which will help you to explore, practice, and assess and see your readiness for the exam. And we have a lot more practice set, as I told you. So once you start preparing, you can go ahead and try practice from 1, 2, 3, and like that. So of course, these are very, and we have a lot of podcasts which are available for you at mba.com as well. These are very useful as they are from the people who are in a very important position, like in the product development team of GMAC itself. To answer your second part of the question, that do I recommend taking dedicated coaching? Well, as I said, that depends. Coaching center can help you to clear your doubts and your concepts. The other important factor that they can help you with is the timing part. In GMAT exam, every section is timed. So the coaching center can help you to get your timing part correct. As per my suggestion, when you go to a coaching center, you should have a clear idea about your expectation. You should understand and know about your weakness and the strong areas, So whenever you go there, you should know that I need help in this, I don't need help in this, or I need help in I need help in quant, I need help in the timing part and everything. That will help you to reap more benefits from the coaching rather than going for an empty mind. And as I can say, there isn't one right way to prepare for GMAT. You may find that some people need the accountability and structure of a class, or some maybe are comfortable with a self-paced study. So people who actually, the top scorer of GMAT test taker should go there goes there to the exam with a positive attitude and a can-do attitude, and they know that they are prepared and they're confident about their abilities.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Upashana. I'll go to you next, Yashwant. The question for you next is that the first two rounds of ISB's admission this year are done, and we're expecting round 3 very soon. If you could maybe talk about a timeline that aspirants could look at to prepare for GMAT such that they're ready before the deadline of round 3 so they can apply to ISB.
Sure, absolutely. So the deadline for round 3 is the 30th of January. And we expect you to get all of your documents in before then. Coming to the GMAT, you can take GMAT as late as 30th of January. So you can actually take the GMAT exam the morning of the deadline also. You don't have to have your official score report. What you can do is you can share your test confirmation. So when you book your test, I believe you have a test confirmation email. You can upload a screenshot of that in your test report slot and give us the test score that you've received, your unofficial test score, and we will consider that. We will wait until we receive your official test scores. I believe, like Upashana had mentioned, it would take a week or a little more than that based on the number of working days. So we give you that window of time for the official scores to come in. But from a document standpoint, yes, you can actually take the GMAT as late as 30th of January.
Got it. So just to put it in perspective, Upashana shared that typically folks prepare for 3 months, 100 hours spread over 3 months. That's correct, Upashana?
Yes, we have done a survey that it's an average timeline.
Right, which means basically 1.1 hour of studies for GMAT every day for 3 months. So if you're someone who thinks you can crunch that time, increase the hours until January 30th and prepare for GMAT and take it, you will make it in time for ISB's round 3 deadline, and you'll be able to basically apply this year. On a similar note, Yashwant, quick thoughts on what's a good time to start the application, because you said essays are also important, your entire story is important. Would you say a lot of reflection, introspection is recommended, or can that fit into this timeline easily, or is that going to be a stretch? What do you think?
So I think that's very subjective. It's based on the person and his schedule. But I think the things that would take the most amount of time, like you said in the application, would be the essays. All of the other things as pieces of information that you could probably just fill on top of your head. Basically your academic details, all of these you probably already have on file. The thing that you really have to put in effort and do are your essays. And when it comes to the essays, people tend to overdo them sometimes. So for people who are applying this year, I would kind of give you a heads up on not to do that, because I guess it is a general tendency to overthink things before you do the final submission. So what we want from your essays is, we want to hear your story in your own words. It's not an English literature competition. We're not looking at your vocabulary. So, just kind of destroying the myths there. But we are more focused on the content rather than how poetic the content is written in. So I would say focus on your initial thoughts, kind of just take a couple of minutes, note down all the significant things in your life, make a few notes on where you want to see yourself after the PGP program and maybe 5 years after the PGP program. And that should be the main focus of your essays. And if possible, get it reviewed by, say, a mentor, a manager, or maybe an alum if you know an alum. But, again, there also you have the risk of overdoing it by showing it to too many people. Then you kind of lose or kind of dilute the soul of your initial thoughts. So again, kind of be wary of that. So I would say bottom line, stick to your original thoughts. Don't go overboard. Keep it simple. Keep it, plain. And I think don't overthink it. And also with the letter of recommendation, that's another piece that would probably take time based on who your evaluator is. So you don't have to wait until the last minute for you to submit your evaluation. If you know who your evaluator is going to be, you can go onto the evaluation section, put in that person's email address and hit submit. So that person will have ample time to fill out your evaluation. So you don't have to wait until you submit the entire application to send out your evaluation form.
Thank you so much. Very helpful, Yashwant. Also very relatable, I'm sure, to a lot of us who overdo things and overthink things a lot. Okay, I'll go to the next question right now. Just want to quickly remind our viewers, you feel free to send in your questions and we'll take them up in the next almost 5 minutes. Okay, the next question for you, Upashana, which is, this is on popular demand, common request. Could you please list down the schools in India that accept GMAT scores for their flagship MBA programs and the deadlines for taking GMAT for all of them this year?
I'm very proud to say one thing, that GMAT is one of the 6 ratified tests by the regulator AICTE, which is All India Council for Technical Education. So GMAT scores can be accepted to admit candidates for PGDM programs approved by AICTE. The GMAT exam actually is accepted by more than 150 business schools in India. I can name a prominent ones here. Some of the top business schools that I can say is, of course, Indian Business School, and then we have SPJ Institute of Management and Research, MDI Gurgaon, GLIM, Great Lake Institute of Management, then IMT Ghaziabad, IMI, BITS Pilani, KG Somaya, TAPMI, Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar. And a lot of people don't know, but IIMs also accept GMAT exam score for their means executive programs. So that is there. And for the deadlines, I would definitely recommend, please go to the official website, see the deadline, the requirements, what are the score they require, what are the supporting documents they require. It's different for every university. Some are already closed, some are still open till January. So all these things are there. So I would definitely recommend, please go to the official website means I can give you the names, you can find them online also. Some of the top names are just name them. So yeah, so go to those website and check the deadlines and the submission dates.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Upashana. And another thing I'd like to share with our viewers from personal experience is that you might also find cutoffs on the websites of these institutions. For example, SPJIMR, from what I remember, had a 75 percentile cutoff for each of the sections on GMAT. So you might want to know that before you take the exam, so you can plan your target score and your preparation all of it accordingly. All right, next question for Yashwant. So a common question that we get a lot of times on the platform, this is that one, which is that folks with below average academics, do they stand a chance to make it to ISB? And if yes, what is it that they can do to increase their likelihood of making it?
Yeah, so that's a question that we also get commonly. And so what I usually tell them is we admit close to 900 people every year, and not all 900 have a stellar academic profile. So these are folks that excel in different areas of their life. So it could be your work experience, maybe, for instance, you have a startup and you do a lot of responsibilities, you're involved in a lot of activities. So that gives you a rich background into applying to a B school. Maybe you're more involved in social activities. Maybe you work with a lot of NGOs. So that should give your profile an extra boost. And something that you can actively do is, for instance, if you don't have, say, a great undergraduate percentage, you can work on getting a average or an above average test score. You can really focus on that GMAT or GRE and get a good score there and boost your profile. So there are many avenues to actually make your profile stand out, even if you have a below average or an average academic profile. Again, I would like to take you back to those 6 parameters that I talked about. So the best way to kind of counterbalance your lower academic scores or anything else that you feel is not up to the mark or below average is by getting, kind of bumping your score up on one of those other parameters. For instance, make sure you put in an evaluation from a person that you're confident will give you a good feedback about you. And make sure your essays, you really talk about things that will make an impact. Do your research about the school. For instance, a lot of people aspire to go into consulting. We have some of the top consulting firms coming to ISB to hire. So if you're talking about going into consulting post your PGP program, do some research about consulting. Reach out to somebody at the consulting club and talk about those things. That will really convey to us that yes, this person has done his homework. He really knows a lot about ISB and he knows what ISB can do for him. So we want to know that you've put in your effort also. So these are things that you can do. So leave no loose ends. I mean, even if you have a great academic score, these are still things you can do. But especially for people who believe that they don't have a stellar academic profile, make sure you do all of these things, and make sure that we've provided those blanks in your application for a reason. So, think through things and make sure you fill out those blanks. Try not to leave anything blank. For instance, there's 3 blanks for hobbies. Sometimes people might think, okay, it's not significant, but that's not true. We really want to know what this person is like outside of work, outside of school. What are the activities that this person likes to do? So we want to know a little bit more about every applicant. So use those things wisely, and do put in the information that we are asking you.
Does my GMAT score determine how much financial aid I get? Second question is, what is the maximum financial aid that ISB has given?
Sure. So we have a couple of different types of scholarships available. First would be your merit-based, obviously, and then would be your need-based. For the merit-based, again, so one parameter alone won't either, make or break your chances of getting a scholarship. We will look at all of the 6 parameters, again, as I mentioned before. So the same parameters that we will look at to give you an offer will be the ones we're looking at when we're looking at merit-based scholarship also. Secondly, your need-based scholarship, if your entire family's income falls below 12 lakhs per annum, then you would qualify for a need-based scholarship. You would have to write an essay and then submit for the need-based scholarship. We also have a diversity-based, merit based on diversity scholarship. So that would be for people with a very diverse profile. So for instance, you've done your undergraduate in, say, a non-conventional field, and you're working in, a very non-conventional field. Say you're working in the armed forces, or you're an international athlete, or you have your own NGO and you've had certain achievements. So all of these would fall into the diversity thing. And coming to the second part, the scholarships range from as little as 5 lakhs up until full tuition waiver. So we have 100% scholarships also, and also scholarships for different varying amounts from 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs.
All right, great. Thank you so much for answering those questions. And of course, our guests and folks in the live chat are also sending their thanks for you guys. You've been very helpful. Before we wind up and end our conversation, I just want to ask if there's something on your mind, maybe like a closing statement that you guys would like to make before we wind up, maybe starting with Upashana.
Ocean, I would like to thank the Inside IIM team today. Ocean, thank you so much. It was great fun being here, and I hope that I was being able to answer the queries to the best of my abilities. Please feel free to get back to Ocean for any query regarding GMAT exam, queries on MBA.com. She can forward them to me, and I will try to answer them as much as I can. And of course, I wish you all good luck, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Upashana. That's very kind of you. Yashwant, if there's anything on your mind.
Same, Ocean. I'd like to thank the entire Inside IIM team, and obviously you for being a great host. And Upashana also has been a very good co-panelist. So thank you to all of you guys. And obviously thanks to the guys who've taken the time out to listen to us. One last minute advice I would give to the applicants is, guys, don't stress out. Don't overthink. If you don't make it this year, there's always next year. So remain calm, remain relaxed. It's always, people tend to do best when they're relaxed. So I would also ask you guys to do that. Don't I would say, don't cut back your chances by overthinking things. So just stay calm, stay focused. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. Yeah, all the best and good luck to you guys.
I'm sorry, Yashwant. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful co-panelist with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you so much, the both of you and everybody else. And I'll see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.